Thank you very much. My name is Michelle Benson. I am currently the Vice President of Marketing and Communication at the Minneapolis Foundation. We are one of the sponsors here, and I'm excited to be the moderator for this fabulous, amazing panel of Black women. So I'm going to go through your bios pretty quickly because we want to be able to talk and have some conversation. So if I miss something in your bios, we'll talk about it later, okay? And we can always put it up on their website or things afterwards, your full bio. So we're going to start with Audra. Audra Robinson from Rocky Robinson, which is Self-Care for Girls. Audra Robinson, the founder of Rocky Robinson, a self-care brand for girls, was born a dreamer. After over 15 years of working in marketing in corporate America, often being the only, we can all attest to that, in the room, she noticed that something was missing, a brand that was relevant and specifically made for Black girls. A beauty brand developed to remind little Black girls that they matter. Rocky Robinson is a self-care products created to celebrate the beauty, brilliance, and magic of Black and brown girls. That is Miss Audra. Clap for Miss Audra. All right now. Now I'm going to go into Ariel Grant, who is Render Free. She is the founder, business owner, CEO, author, illustrator, speaker, wife. I'm flipping the page.
Wow.
And daughter. You know, because we got to put them all in there. She should get all those accolades. She has a background in program, curriculum, and community development. Her work has consistently been to advocate and care for those navigating the oppression of white supremacy. Informed by history and ongoing community relationships, she inspires introspection, meaningful connection, and racial identity progression. That is Miss Ariel Grant. Now we'll move down to Peju, who is with Respect Doula Consulting. I got that right, didn't I? I'm trying.
Powerful Black woman
that he knows. An American-born nomadic Nigerian, Peju does bios in the non-traditional sense. She believes in the utility of listing credentials for clients to make informed decisions on a remarkable service to expect, but then tis only one facet, and a limiting one too, as it contributes little to being better professionals. Oblige her a few randomly amusing facts and then some relevant qualifications. So we're going to do those. We're going to do the three. So if you all didn't know, she studied Farsi and almost made it to Iran as a part of the Solidarity Friendship Delegation, but in 2009, the revolution happened. So, you know, we got to keep our girls safe. She can actually go 3 days without needing human contact. I can't go that long. So the pandemic was okay for you.
I loved it.
Okay.
I wish it was continuing, but now we're...
And she was once a child TV presenter at the Nigerian Television Authority. So she's famous. Okay. In the presence, y'all better know it. Okay. So now moving right along to Faith. Faith Folion. Folion. Thank you. So Faith CWP is the owner and creative director of This Love Weddings, a planning and design boutique that specializes in creating wedding weekends for long distance and multicultural couples. Okay. She's also the owner of TLW Consulting, an engagement and event management strategy firm in the business of doing good. That is Miss Faith. Next, we have Shar Dobbs from the Activate Network. Shar Dobbs is a strategic consultant who helps entrepreneurs find the intersection of purposeful profit and authentic alignment. Period. Got that. Having worked as an engineer in corporate and also a solopreneur, she recognizes that both passion and strategy are crucial components of lasting success. Got that sentence. Observant but personable, she has a knack for empowering her clients to cut through the clutter to make priority pivots, leading them towards more clarity, impact, and profit in their endeavors. That is Ms. Shar Dobbs. See, I'm going to get it right. I'm going to give you what you deserve. And last but not least, nope, I'm just going to hold it, is Miss Precious Wallace of King P Studio. Precious is a self-taught and professionally trained graphic designer from Minneapolis. She creates art in as many ways as she sees fit. Okay. First, by using color theory to explain and expand and elevate different mediums such as branding, campaigning, print materials, and things alike. Precious also creates art through painting on wood and canvases, performing different work to heal and moderating panels, all dedicated to women of color. That is Miss Precious. All right, so let's start with this dynamic group of Black women. Now I'm gonna start with you, Precious, and then we'll come this way, okay? So, who inspired you to be a leader and why? Is this thing on? It's not. We will sing if it's not on. There we go.
Okay, what was it?
Who inspired you to be a leader and why?
You want me to be honest?
Yeah, I do.
All right, no one really inspired me to be a leader. I just decided a long time ago I didn't want to work for other people for the rest of my life.
Won't he do it? That's real.
So
That's
I
honest.
didn't really have the language around leadership or entrepreneurship. My father was born in 1937. My mother was born in 1953. Wasn't no language about owning your own. I just knew after getting a job at 16, I didn't want to work for other people for the rest of my life.
Well, good for you.
And that was that.
Okay, all right, we'll take that. We'll pass it on down to Miss Shire.
Who inspired the leadership? That's such a good question. I would say strong women around me, to be honest. I have like young memories of, I would say what encouraged entrepreneurship was my grandfather and one of my uncles in my family. But I think the leadership comes from seeing women tackle so much every day, and especially Black women. And so you're inspired by that in your own life and figuring out how you want to, the type of leader that you want to be. So it's almost like I see it as a race where we're in a team race and passing the baton. So the women before me made it possible to step into the type of leadership that I want to lead with, going forward. And then hopefully that inspires and encourages and empowers the next woman to decide to be the leader that she wants to be.
Okay, thank you. Everybody will get this same question, and then we'll bounce it around.
Got it. I would say my overall community. I'm the oldest of 5 children, and so I was always taught to be a good example to them, to lead them, and especially because I'm Nigerian too as well, so it's always important that you set a great example for those following behind you. So my community, family, even in school I had teachers that poured into me and that just kind of saw a bright future for me more than I did for myself at the time. And so they would always encourage me and hone in on my leadership skills.
Okay, thank you. Hi, Mike.
Yeah, following up with, Faith, I loved Precious's, reel, just like 16. I was thinking about that. And for me, I don't know if it was so much inspiration, and as Faith said, we're both Yoruba. You're just born and that's what you do. Boom, you have no choice. This is your role, fit into it. And I think that's one of my strengths anyways in general. I have a capacity to adapt no matter what. Leadership as a term, I think the core of it is just serving. So that's, especially in recent times, that's something I've been focusing on, like who serves around me. And, community, Nigerians are constantly serving, Americans are constantly serving. And I look at people who still are doing a lot, or are busy with life, but they still have time to model the behavior, which at the end of the day is serving and leading. I think for me, it's always come out of a need to meet a need. Being the oldest of 3, like, you don't get to think through what you're gonna do. It just happens and you see a need and you meet it. So
Okay.
if that's what leadership is, that's how I roll.
Okay, So between the two of you, I'm gonna get some good jollof, right?
I'll refer you to my mom.
Okay.
My gift is eating and making people happy. So I could hook you up, but I would be eating the food with y'all.
We'll figure it out. We'll figure it out.
We can get you some good.
Okay. I'm
No
I have Ghanaian friends that are like, hey,
She's the
try my
event
jollof.
planner.
So I'm just,
She's the event planner. I'm the conflict reworking person, so I'll just
But
follow her.
we're the originals.
Ooh.
You're gonna compare it to.
Ooh.
You heard it here first. You heard it here first. All right then.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
All right, I love this question. My name's Ariel Grant. I love this question because leadership, this question is alive. Like, ask me yesterday, ask me tomorrow, and the answer's going to be different. But when you mentioned that, I'm such a visual person. When you asked the question, I pictured an old cubicle, which I used to work. Because for me, it was in that cubicle that I really leaned into leadership in a new way. I was standing with some colleagues, black and brown colleagues, in this little cubicle, all of whom happened to be women, and we were being real in this little safe space about the hardship we were experiencing in the workplace. And I realized that my lived experience as a black woman in a predominantly white institution in which I was navigating systems that were constantly devaluing me was the shared experience with other colleagues, and we deserve more safe space. We deserve more cubicles. So I, in that time, really leaned into this vision and this idea of we deserve beautiful sacred spaces, and that led me to this work of owning a co-working space for self-identified black and brown women. So yeah, leadership to me, I also love what you said about, you said we have to not only put it out there, but then model it, right? And so even as the leader of this space, of Render Free, what does it look like for me to take up space in my home in a new way, in my community in a new way that serves me and reminds folks that I am worthy and I do have value.
Absolutely.
So that's what I think about leadership.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Will you repeat the question, please?
I absolutely will. Who inspired you to be a leader and why?
Who inspired me to be a leader? So it has been beautiful to be in St. Paul because this is where I grew up. And this is where I was inspired to be a leader. I went to J.J. Hill. We had a black principal, Shirley Kaiser. And I graduated from St. Paul Central High School. We had many amazing educators and community leaders. I want to send love to Miss Katie McGuat. She actually inspired me to be a leader, along with the amazing people in my family, the women. My mom was an entrepreneur. She moved to Minnesota from Mississippi and was married with 2 kids at 19 years old and moved to the north for better opportunities. Watching her navigate, going from divorce to being an entrepreneur, she would do carefree curls in her house, and that was her side hustle.
Okay.
She retired from Seagate. She owns her home, and today she will boldly boast that she makes more money being retired than she did when she worked.
Go ahead,
And
Mama.
so between the strong educators and community organizers, shout out to Robin Hickman,
I love Robin.
shout out to Kwame McDonald, shout out to Professor Elkate. Those were the people who invested in me and pushed me forward as a young person here in St. Paul. So St. Paul inspired me to be a leader.
Good. Okay. So let's kind of stay in this space, right? So you're black women, you're black entrepreneurs. What was it like to start your business? The obstacles, the advantages that you have as a black woman, because we can do a lot of stuff. And so would like to get a sense of what was it like for you to start your business, officially start your business? Because I feel like a lot of us have businesses, myself included, and it's just like, I just need this official coming out of like, yes, I've started this business. So can some of you kind of tell us how that started, how you got motivated, and anyone can pick up the mic and go, and don't be shy because, we're not, so.
I'll break the ice for us. Break the ice.
Okay.
Maybe Precious will go. 'Cause
Yeah, Precious will go after.
Oh, okay. She's fearless. You know, like when I was understanding myself better, like I see needs and I go, you know, and people around me are often like, you need to bring it back, or like, you can't fix things. And I think that's one of the challenges of being the oldest in the family. Those things do shape us. And for me, I'm a researcher and a scientist, so I have my PhD in international conflict resolution and mediation, mostly about restorative justice. I was fortunate enough that, you know, Minnesota educated me, invested in me, and I was able to go to Germany and get it for free. You know, I'm all about free.
Hey.
But you know, even with that, when people meet me, I'm confident, I'm assertive, I'm the only girl. My father was my bestest friend forever, and he'd be like, nobody can love you more than me. I'm like, yeah, sure. So I didn't have those challenges that I would meet other people going to school or boarding school or coming to university or college. I was just like, I would go and people are like, you don't filter, do you? However, when it does come to entrepreneurship, I realized, especially last year, this is still a new thing for me. I'm more comfortable with the term reluctant entrepreneur. Actually, there's a, last year, one of my other friends who we were doing our PhD together in Germany came back. Has her JD, was working on her PhD, and we both were working on what we titled the fastest growing demographic in the US, which is yours truly here, Black female entrepreneurs. And that's been since 2015 or so. So I like data, but I also like context.
Okay.
And I always looked at myself like, I don't understand it, I'm not an entrepreneur. I don't use that term as much. And then I realized in digging through it, I realized that, you know, I'm the daughter of two entrepreneurs.
Okay.
You know, my father has his own business, my mother has hers. I was talking to Faith about that. But I've never considered myself as an entrepreneur, even still now. But I like to learn. And thanks to Carl putting something out last year about something that University of Minnesota was doing, value proposition, blah, 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 check it out. I'm like, it's free, cool, let me check.
He is about spreading the free information.
Well, that's one of the advantages that Black female entrepreneurs always take because they're under-resourced. So they're constantly looking for ways to resource themselves while hoping for the big ticket, because the demographic of who always gets funded are, 18 to 35 males of the white color in that, but actually the real demographic that should be funded looks here. So for me, entrepreneurship is still something I'm learning, and I'm realizing that entrepreneurship doesn't need to always be about the bottom line, which is what we're told, but it can also be about meeting needs. So my work at realizing that conflict is always here, it's not good or bad, is about making sure that people know that, hey, we can work with you, and I don't need to be like, you know, making $1 million to make it work. I can still feed the economy. I can social economy, the care economy. Anyways, I'll stop now, but I'll give it to Precious. But I think that's that's where I'm at, like with entrepreneurship, like letting other people push me, and also letting them helping myself see the needs that are need to be met. So that's how I get into entrepreneurship and stuff.
Thank you.
Can you repeat the question like you did?
What motivated you to start your organization? Like, as a Black woman, things that we go through, we always have businesses, we're always doing multiple things. What made you say, you know what, this one right here, I'm gonna do this one? and you're a creative, so it's I could tell your mind is like all over the place.
Yeah, so again, we're gonna be honest. Hey y'all, we're gonna be real honest.
That's a safe space, we honest.
Yeah, no. And so I already said at the beginning, I didn't really have like a structure to know what entrepreneurship was. I just knew I didn't want to work for other people. So the other part to that, which is for me in the current time and space that I'm in, is changing. When I originally started my entrepreneurship journey, it was more so, again, I'm a real Capricorn. So it was out of that, like, oh, that's what y'all doing? Okay, I'm gonna do something. I'm gonna do my own thing, right? And so part of that was
Straight Capricorn vibes.
yeah. So part of that was very much I've been doing design work since I was 11, right? I just turned 29. And I've been doing design work since I was 11. And I had my first clients at 16. And then I had my next, like, real contract. Shout out to True Art Speaks. We love you, Tish. Was 2014. And I was also doing work at Juxta. And I love that space. I love the nonprofit space. And I recognize that in Minnesota, though, there's already so much of that, right? And during that time, I was also finishing my associates, and then I went on to finish my bachelor's. And as I was finishing my bachelor's at MCAD, I had a few counterparts, less melanated, who they just were literally graduating and then charging upwards to $200-$300 an hour to do
And getting it.
freelance work and getting it and getting it.
Absolutely.
And I was over here like, and everybody is fighting to go. You know, there's big agencies that I respect. I'm here for it, but I just was like, okay, interesting. After, though, I worked at corporate Best Buy for like 2 seconds of my life, and I was like, okay, I see what corporate life is. I understand.
You did it.
Don't need to do it no
You don't
more.
have to.
I
It's
like
not
the
for
pay,
everybody.
though. I like the pay. You ain't got to do much, and you still get paid.
Wait, sign us all up for that. You don't have to do too much, but you still get paid. Sign us all up for
I mean,
that.
and I say that respectfully. Like, I am not trying to insult anyone. For creatives, though, you get stagnant because you are following corporate guidelines.
Yep.
And so it becomes a place of like, this is where I'm staying, this is where I live, but my pay keeps going up. Beautiful, amazing. However, not for me. And then also doing like small agency, middle agency, and different things like that. So after all of those different things, I kind of got to this place of, I think the last place I worked, I won't mention, is when they pretty much offered everybody $40K and like a week of PTO. Now, this might be very millennial for me to say, but I was just like, who?
You millennials do have, y'all got a lot of gall. Y'all be like, what? Not doing it.
I know it might look like audacity, but I promise there was hustle behind it.
Okay.
Because I was just like, I can work for myself, and I did.
And make more.
And like the first 8 months of me officially making King P Studio LLC, I made over that 40. I did that on my own, and I had unlimited PTO.
Yes, you do. Which is important.
And which is important
It is
because
extremely self-care.
you got to be able to balance, right?
Exactly.
And so I would honestly say at that time, like, my entrepreneurship journey was very much about hustle and survival mode. And it was very much about, like, proving to myself and being a Black woman in spaces that are still very white dominated in, like, Mad Men Central. It was just very much, I'm just hustle, grit, get to it. Like, a lot of people around me was like, you really act like a New Yorker or like somebody from LA who's just like, let's make it happen. And I'm like, well, and that's not typical here in Minnesota.
Right. Are you from Minnesota?
Born and raised.
There are Minnesotans that are like that though. Like it's just a stereotype.
Yeah, I'm born and raised, but like, I still just was like, there's gotta be more.
Right. And that's the millennial in you. There's always more.
Well, and also, and so I knew too that I didn't want King P Studio, like as I'm changing the structure and now learning what that looks like I don't want King P Studio to just be a reflection of me. I've never wanted it to just be a reflection of me, but at the time it was my survival mode, and so that's what it was. I've always wanted King P Studio to be an actual studio, a remote studio house, even before the pandemic, where Black women coming out of college can work for it and do their creative thing and be able to be connected to different orgs like I am. And I actually, like, I remember saying to myself, when that day comes and I start doing that, I have a 2-year maximum. Like, you can't work for King P Studio for more than 2 years. You gotta go. Because I understand as a creative how important it is to keep going other places, keep striving, keep growing. You don't live here. This is not where you live. So that's me, and that's just like my entrepreneurship journey, that's where I've been, and that's kind of where it's growing at this point. But it started with Hustle and Grit.
Okay, thank you for sharing. Is there anyone else on the panel who wants to add to that?
I think I do. Can you repeat the question though? One more
What
time.
what motivated you to start your business? And you know, like all of the obstacles that we face as Black women, what made you say, you know what, nope, I can do it. I can do this.
I started my business in the height of a recession, not this one, the previous one.
The first one. The first one we were
So
around for.
I had to clarify. So I've
Oh wait, the 08 recession.
the 08 recession, the Great 08.
The Great 08.
And at that time, I was looking for opportunities, and I did get some, but not too many, not the ones that I really truly wanted, and found myself deciding I needed to provide myself with the opportunity. And so I did. I started my business in 09, not realizing just the struggle and hustle that I would need to take on. And then also being in an industry where not too many people of color in general, especially a Black woman, would dominate that space. So that it took a lot of maneuvering to find myself and to find like my niche and where I wanted to particularly be. When I originally started, I did just various events, galas, fundraisers, and then I dabbled into weddings too. So I do have a marketing background, and I fell in love with weddings and wanted to be in that particular space. And so I niched down strictly to weddings. And in that work, I also found myself advocating for Black brides, for just overall women of color in the wedding industry, specifically in Minnesota, which was difficult. And then also, I'm very creative. I do a lot of design work. Not only do I do like the logistics and planning, but I do the overall like design decor work, which isn't known too much here. And so I realized I had a very strong aesthetic. I realized that a lot of my work was matching that of people nationally. I would go to different conferences. I would do, like, education is really important to me. I have always been ingrained from a very young age, and so that was no different in the wedding space for me. So I was always a sponge, soaking up information, wanting to learn. And so that brought me to know, like, I am doing amazing work, and not too many people know that, or people discount me because I am a woman of color, because I'm a Black woman, or because I know I look young. They would just assume I wouldn't be the owner of said business, that I'm just the assistant, or I'm the coordinator for the day versus the owner of the business. So I had to manage that, and then also while doing that, deciding I'm gonna be, like I said earlier, when it comes to like justice and just advocating for just Black women, I made sure to be really intentional. A lot of the work that I put out there are of women of color, my couples. I'm also very inclusive, so that's the work I show. I do quite a different variety of weddings and events, but I wanted to be that outlet, that place where you can see women of color being the bride that they are, getting married, and having the wedding of their dreams, and knowing someone there that's here in the Twin Cities that are trend forward, because in the Midwest, we're always behind. But so I'm always, if I have to, I will source rental items just so that my couples can get that same vibe that they would feel in California and New York and Atlanta. But it definitely took me a lot of self-awareness, me knowing myself, me being comfortable with doing that, because a lot of times there's a lot of struggle with that. Being in the space alone, or people just hating on you. I'm just gonna say it. Like, how did you do it? Or thinking that it's easy because you were able to execute it and do
Say
it.
that. That's a word right
And
there.
it's actually Black Girl Magic.
Yeah, it is. I will sprinkle a little bit, but you can't have it all.
So I've learned a lot in being an entrepreneur and learning about how to advocate for myself, how to advocate for my couples, bringing cultural events and experiences to the day, and bringing other vendors along that have an interest in the space, but making sure that they are able to accommodate my couples in the way they should. Not just wanting to have Black couples or interracial or interfaith weddings, wanting to be in that space, but not being able to honor that space when they're in it. So that's kind of where I come in.
Okay, thank you. So I'm gonna go a little off script. Sorry, honey. And I want to ask some individual questions to you, and I'm gonna start with you, Audra. Tell me what it felt like the first time you saw Rocky Robinson in a store.
So I launched online.
Mm-hmm.
So my products are considered direct to consumer. And then my first, I guess, brick and mortar was my sister. She has a beauty supply store in Antelope Valley, California. And it's 3,500 square feet. So she's also an entrepreneur. So absolutely had to launch there first.
Absolutely.
And the feeling was I just felt excited because, as far as I'm concerned, we made Black history. My sister has a store, and my products are on her shelf because I'm the oldest, and I said it had to be on the shelf.
Exactly.
But yes, and beauty supply is a key channel for where Black people discover products, hair care, skincare. So it totally made sense. So I had a strong sense of pride that two girls from St. Paul are, doing our own thing in our own space.
Okay, good. Now, Shar, let's talk about the Activate Network. Tell me about a time when you walked in that space, or you had women in that space, and you were like, "This is exactly what I envisioned. This right here is what I've had in my head all this time, and look at it." What does that look like? What does that feel like? Hot mic.
So,
There we go.
I think we're ready. Such a powerful question. Wow. I have to contribute much of this to Camille Thomas. She founded Activate Network in 2017. I was there along with her, but she founded it, and now we're co-owners of the company, and so it's been really exciting. So the moment that immediately came to my mind when you said that was our relaunch and our celebration of co-ownership was in February 2018. We hosted a fireside chat with Melissa Butler, which is the owner of the Lip Bar. And this is special for many, many reasons, because the vision was we wanted a beautiful portrayal that women of color support women of color, one, and we want it in an elevated space. We want it in a space where people may think we don't go. And so it was actually at the Walker Art Center here. And it was like a sold out event, over 150 women of color in the room. And a couple of special things about this was that, one, this was right before Melissa Butler launched in Target stores. And no one had, I won't say no one, it was surprising that the companies that she was doing business with hadn't brought her to Minnesota, considering it was such a big deal. She was a part of an exciting program and things like that. So we thought, that we're going to do it then. If no one else will do it for us, we'll do it. And she's also from Detroit, which I'm from Detroit. I'm a transplant, I guess, technically here. Yep. And so it was so beautiful to have a moment with her to talk about the hustle and the grit and the passion, the commitment she had to her business while she was on the rise. When, then people, right after that, people saw the glitz and the glamour, right? but she was able to spark so much inspiration and hope into the audience. People still to this day talk about that event and talk about how her sharing her her honesty, sharing her story inspired them. And the big part of that was our focus was we want to tell the real story, the honest, the truth, the things people don't want to talk about, the challenges we experienced as Black women, how, she was on Shark Tank and they completely, it's a horrible experience.
Yeah,
one.
It was.
Let's just culturally, like, it was awful how they even talked to them and how it was allowed on how they talked to them. And then, of course, they rejected them, but she has the last laugh essentially, and she's doing really well. And so it was a beautiful, beautiful moment. And for me, the vision was seeing Black women and women of color inspired by that and sharing our honesty, our truth, and making sure that empowers the woman, to go and do what she wants to do in her life. Understanding the story isn't all, it's not all good, but failures mixed with success is the path,
right?
And that's okay. It's progress over perfection. So that was one of the most exciting.
That's a word right there. Progress over perfection.
Yes.
Girl, you better say it.
Yes, and women of color need to know that because the standard, people put this. It's so interesting too. It's like they expect us to be less, but then there's this environment of perfection.
Yep.
And so the two don't go. And so I really see Activate Network breaking all of those limitations that that society has put on us, and really mixing that idea of wealth and well-being.
Okay. Ariel, I'll have you have the same question since you have a space as well. What does that look like walking in and being like, oh my God, look at this?
Absolutely. So I've already even mentioned it this morning to a couple people because I love it so much. In the last 2 weeks, so we are a workspace, right? So Render Free, as I mentioned, was inspired by my experience navigating a predominantly white space in which I felt undervalued. And it wasn't just about how I was feeling, like emotionally, though that matters. It was also about my health. I began to experience symptoms of chronic stress and anxiety because I was moving in and out of a space that inherently was not built for me. And there wasn't even space for it to be evolved by me or folks that looked like me. And as I spoke with other Black and brown women across the Twin Cities, they would do this whenever I said, oh yeah, I'm not sleeping great, or I have constant tension in my shoulders, or I'm like nursing this headache all the time. It was, these symptoms have become commonplace for Black and brown women because we are constantly stressed out because of that unrealistic, that way that folks come at us, like Shar mentioned, of, we don't expect a lot from you, but also you have to be perfect. It's like there's no way to exist fully human in that expectation. And so I wanted to create a space, and initially I called Render Free a communal wellness space, because I just want a space where we can go and try to figure out what we need to be all right. But of course, people are like, what's a communal wellness space? They ask me, you have like treadmills, like, no. So I was like, okay, we'll be a workspace. Let's kind of cloak this in workspace, because we know how to work. We feel good about going to a place to work. But it's all like, truthfully, y'all, between us, it's a trap. I am just trying to get you into a space where, maybe you're answering some emails, and maybe you're checking off that to-do list, but you're also in a place where you can check in with your body and say, what do I need to take care, and what's available to me? And so one of the moments where I felt like we've arrived, like I can retire now. I've had 2 members in the last 2 weeks who came into Render Free on their day off. And I genuinely feel emotional about that.
That's joy. I see it in your face. That's such joy.
Because it shows that this space, which we've created as a community of members together, is a place where they feel safe enough, that they feel like abundance there, that even on their days of PTO, right? Like they're choosing of all places to bring themselves into Render Free. And so that for me has been so beautiful.
Retire, girl. You could do it.
I'm gonna just make more when I retire.
So now this is a question for all of you ladies, because some of you have touched on it a little bit. Self-care, right? How do we, and I'm gonna put myself in this, how do we as Black women take care of ourselves when we know we have to show up and show out at work, in spaces most of the time that do not look like us, aren't very friendly to us, expect a lot of perfection from us, and still have to switch it off when we go back home to figure it out and do it all over again. So that's a question for everyone on the panel. What do you do for self-care?
So,
Uh-oh.
because I'm the self-care queen, I feel like.
Share a wise one.
You know what? No, but in real life, so wait, the first two things I wanted to say, actually too, and it's me really just giving them their flowers, is that I've been to Render Free, and when I went into Render Free, because a friend of mine, Nina Belton, took me, and when we went in, actually, it was kind of dope, because I always say Ariel was there, and I forget who else, but we were all just in the space talking that Nina and me were about, or Nina was about to have a meeting. I don't know, it doesn't matter. It was so calming. And I was like, is there like snacks and stuff? And she was like, yeah, girl, it's over there. And they were closing. And she was like, I'll take your time. When I leave, that's when you can leave. That's fine. And it was just like, it was real calming. And I appreciated that, right? And it's a beautiful just space. Because I think at that time, it was a soft open. You was only open like Thursday through Friday or something. Yeah, it was amazing. It's an amazing space. And then also giving flowers to Shar, I'll just say, I've known Shar for a while. I'm like a proud niece of Shar's at this point. Okay.
Claim your auntie.
Yeah, that's she been my 313 auntie for a while now. And so, but every time I've seen Shar, because we originally met at the Coven, Shar has always like taken me under her wing. Her, Shantara, and Camille have always taken me under their wings and been like, so Precious, what you doing? How are you? Right? And that's actually a segue, and I thank you for that. That's actually a segue into the self-care for me, because I often find self-care, one, with self, by being able to have my, what I call grooming days. Grooming day means I'm unavailable.
The whole day.
The whole day. I went to therapy. I didn't went and got a massage. I didn't get my face threaded. I am at home in the bathtub. Leave me, I don't know what to tell you. But self-care in business also looks like me being able to have, and I know it's such a privilege, me being able to have like 2-hour, 3-hour, 4-hour conversations with Alex of the Coven, being able to have conversations and access to Shantara and Shar even, and them being like, oh, you're moving over here? Okay, I know some people. Like, things of that nature. Being able to have that community that's also very immediate. And also, even when I need healing, is also very, and they're immediate, is part of the self-care, I think, as an entrepreneur for me.
Yeah, thanks. Those some good nuggets.
Yeah.
All right, Miss Shar, come on down.
I'm gonna borrow the grooming days. I think that's a great one.
Yeah.
You know, I love the label.
We're gonna go down the line this
Okay.
way, just so everybody is ready. Because they told me we got 15 minutes, and
Okay.
I'm like, we talking.
A little more time. No pressure. Okay. I think self-care is such a I feel like a loaded phrase in a way. I think different seasons require different levels of self-care. So I would speak on the season that I think I'm in my life is I need a different level of self-care of mind and spirit and soul, because of the rooms that we're stepping in. You know, as being Black women and women of color entrepreneurs, sometimes we have the privilege of totally choosing who we want to always be around, and sometimes we don't. And when we have to enter spaces and enter rooms and enter partnerships and enter different opportunities, and I won't say have to, when we choose to, for the mission, for the purpose, the room isn't always safe, to be honest. The room isn't always safe, and so we have to protect ourselves. So for me, self-care is, having those conversations with your support group, making sure in entrepreneurship, you definitely need some other entrepreneur friends. That is essential to make, because they understand the journey, they understand the challenges. So that's like self-care for me, of being able to call someone up and say, hey, I experienced this today. I need some, non-judgment, support, love, and vent, so I can just, get some things out, And then, and like I was saying, around the mind and, protecting your mornings. Mornings are really important to me. So I call them like sacred sessions. So being able to have time in the morning, you're focusing on my health, and then having fun. That's something I've been introducing more and more into my life, of remembering that the type of person that I need more balance and harmony in my life. So I have to interject more fun. And again, I was going back to this season. This season is also requiring more fun and adventure. And so I've been setting up, like trips and fun things to do that stimulate your creativity and rest. So that's what it's been looking like for me lately.
Okay, I like trips too. So.
Yeah, we go.
If you need a plus one, I fit well in the carry-on. So.
I agree with both of you, what you've shared thus far. I think I'm gonna try to keep this brief, but the biggest thing for me is centering myself, so that's really important. And I love me a good grooming day, a little like spa day. I'll do that too. But in centering myself, I always go back to my core values. I have core values for my business, but then also myself. And I'm looking at what did I do to feed myself, to feed that core value in that last week, last day, in the past month. If I'm in a space where I didn't exactly choose to be in that space, I'll reflect on how did I get into that space? What could I do next time? So I have a lot of reflection that I do within myself to make sure that I'm able to center myself. So it's all about just centering myself, traveling if I need to, experiences. One of my core values is experiences. And so that comes with travel, that comes with enjoying great food. I will do a solo date. I will take myself out and enjoy me time, because if you can't enjoy time with yourself,
Nobody else will.
Exactly. So it's really important to do that. And then, something I wanted to touch on in self-care in my business is creating systems. So creating systems so that one, everything isn't in my head. And that also streams into having support and delegating. So that's how I give myself self-care, is knowing I'm able to welcome and receive help, because I feel like Black women at times, we do not like to accept help at times, and that's because we've always done it or have been conditioned to say we have to do it ourselves, no one's going to do it for us. But I learned over the past few years of being comfortable with receiving and allowing people to help me, asking for that help, and delegating. So I delegate a lot of things to my team, just to ensure that everything isn't falling on me or falling on the wayside. So that's how I handle self-care.
Thank you, Faith. This is awesome. Not to be the contrarian, but I will be the contrarian. I'm just like, you delegate, and then the work doesn't get done, then it comes back to you. Self-care, and finding people that you can trust too, and then training them and investing in them when you're tired. But self-care for me, I was like,
Tell us how you really feel, patient.
hook me up with your people. Delegate back. It's funny because I'm like, I compartmentalize. I don't know if it's being the oldest, but you are the oldest of 5 kids, and you're like, I take trips, I do this. I'm like, no.
It took some time. It wasn't always like that.
For me, the self-care has really just come out of unmet needs, and I think even just the work that I do, just respect doula, just putting those two together, studying respect, and just that. The doula aspect of it, we don't see that many females of the Black color who are doulas, and also the fact that Black birth is also a challenge too. So putting those together for me has always just been more about wanting to make sure that people are taking care of themselves, because I think even in community and in society, if we're actually self-regulating and de-escalating stuff within ourselves, we won't have enough drama, as much drama as we have. And as Black females, being under-resourced, sometimes what I've observed is also sometimes we don't have enough grace to extend to each other. So sometimes it feels like we're competing for limited resources when we have to like step back and think like, you know what, you don't even need to limit me. I think, Precious was saying that, like, it's like, I'll just take that and make my own opportunities. Actually, Faith said that. Like, she was trying to get a job and it wasn't happening, so she's gonna create and produce. So for me, my self-care, the person I am now and trying to not be in general, is if people are being taken care of, then that burden that I feel like I'm always unknowingly carrying around is lessened a little bit. So the last couple of years, we came back to Minnesota unexpectedly. I wanted to do other things, work for the UN, pop in and out as a diplomat. That didn't work. And then we came back,
You still got time. You still got time.
I do, right? Thank you. We came back, and I was forced to make sure that I was taking care of myself. So one thing I do, sort of like Precious, is I'm off the grid. It's like I'm off the grid, and people are like, how do you? I'm just like, I don't talk to another human being. Fortunately and unfortunately, I'm coupled. My husband will be trying to talk to me. I'm like, no.
Wow. Okay. No.
So I go off the grid to rest my voice. I think Celine Dion, people that sing, Mariah Carey, like, they rest their voice because as a conflict practitioner, my voice is also my tool. So I have to make sure I'm taking care of that. And then I let other people take care of me. And also continue shout out to Render Free. The work that we're doing in just conflict, like, I really appreciate Ariel and her team back in February with everything that happened with young Amir Locke and Deshaun Hill and just all the other things. Like, they offered a complimentary pass, and a team member was like, yeah, you should go. And I was like, but I know myself. I won't get any work done. I'll talk to everyone, and I'm behind. So in that way, that's an example of unmet needs for me. Like, self-care was, I would love to go to Render Free at some point. I would schedule it in the spring, but I will check Ariel out and send people there,
Ariel will make sure that you're gonna send somebody afterwards.
Well, hold you accountable.
Hold her accountable. Okay, go
Gentle
ahead, Ariel.
accountability. So for me, as a Black woman, I have always been in predominantly white institutions. So not only in the workspace prior to owning Render Free, but then also my schooling, like all throughout grade school, high school, college. And in order to survive and thrive in those spaces, I became very comfortable in my armor. I was so comfortable in my armor that I didn't even know I had my armor on. Like, it was like, it grows with me, it changes with me. And, we as Black women who at different times armor up, it presents itself differently. Our armors are different. And for me, my armor is like to be very charming and to be very bubbly and to be like the social butterfly. And that is truly who I am. But it also can be a defensive mechanism, a survival mechanism. And for a long time, I was so comfy in my armor that I didn't even know I was wearing one until it starts to crack. And when you're armored up, you actually can't even check your wounds. Like, you don't even know what's going on underneath. And so for me, self-care, wellness, the work I do at Render Free, but more importantly, the work I'm continually doing in my own life is to trust and believe my body. To find spaces and relationships and opportunities and time to armor off, and then believe whatever my body is telling me. If my body is telling me, go to bed, to not minimize that alarm system that for a long time I've been like, my body's so annoying. As Americans, particularly in the Western thinking, like, we are so up here and we act like we're floating heads, we act like we're machines, but it's realizing that my body is telling me what I need in order to take care. My body is telling me, you need to laugh, you need to move, you need connection, you need touch, and so to lean into those things and trust those things.
That is awesome.
I just had this memory. I used to keep writing from Audre Lorde, where she said, self-care is not selfish. In fact, it's a revolutionary act. I kept that by my desk when I was working in corporate marketing, managing a $150 million business, being a single point of contact for over 18 brands. And often, at least what I internalized is no matter how many awards I won, no matter how amazing the work that I helped put out, it was never enough. And so for me, self-care has always been something that I love to do. I'm really experiential, so I go to an infrared sauna to help heal from the inside out. I love cupping, I get massages, and what I've noticed recently that's been a great form of self-care for me is actually calling my friend and talking to them and hearing their voice. And the next thing I know, it's 2 hours later, and it did not feel like that. And no matter how stressed out I felt, following that conversation, it's just been an amazing healing moment. Also for me, self-care is creating spaces for my friends to come together. I feel like I have a lot of friends that I've collected, and I bring them together, old and new, and all have walked away with saying, like, we really needed this. And so sometimes I think self-care is also curating, like Ariel has done, but curating those moments for our friends, especially if, as an entrepreneur, where you can feel very isolated in your journey. And as an entrepreneur now, being on this side of business, self-care for me has been connecting with other entrepreneurs, is particularly women who are connectors and networkers, and they move fast and they see your vision and they are there to literally be a doula to your vision. That has been self-care for me. And then the final point I want to make is with the brand that I created that lives on the pillar of self-care, because I was sitting in those spaces in corporate, often being the only or few in the room that looked like me. And I would look around and say, I know people who look like me who are smart. I know people who look like me that are creative and agile. So how do I give back? I would go to schools and talk to kids about careers in marketing and advertising, and then through the product that I create to help kids feel empowered and discover self-care. And so the self-care that I've gotten is when I hear back from those parents and when I get video from the kids who parents who've told me their daughter literally sleeps with the product at their nightstand at night, or who will take 2 baths because she sees herself. That's been self-care for me.
Okay, thank you. So, it's 10:34. I got a little more time. So I want to ask a question that is important to me personally, because I'm a Black woman, but it's not a nice topic. I want to talk about hair. I want to talk about how you Black women are sitting up here with your beautiful crowns in different ways, natural, braided, twisted, straight, whatever, and how we and how we go and show up at our workplace, and it's not considered professional because it's not straight, or it's not kept, as my grandmother would say. I could hear her saying it. That don't look kept. It's kept. It's in there. I kept it in there. So let's talk a little bit about that. Let's talk a little bit about showing up your authentic self in the workplace and what that looks like for you, and how, even if it makes others uncomfortable, you stand in it. She was ready. She was like, look, I'm ready. It's about that armor you were talking about, right?
It is. That's why I was like, I got this. Okay, so I think one of the things that I am still learning is when I'm in a space where I do feel welcome to expand. Like Precious, when you talked about coming into Render Free and that like comfort, my hope is that when people walk into our space, they feel invited to expand. And then when we're in those places where we feel the ease of expansion, like not I'm pushing, but actually I'm invited to just be my full self, to let my coils reach, like to do whatever it looks like, that I can remember this feeling again in my body, because in my brain, whenever I'm moving about the world, there are so many things happening up here, but our memories are actually kept in our bodies. And so if I can practice being familiar with this feeling of expansion, then maybe in other places I will remind myself I can expand a little bit more here. Like, because I'm safe to expand fully at home, and I'm safe to expand fully at my sister's house, and I'm safe to expand fully at church or whatever the place is for you, with that confidence and that familiarity, it's like, and I didn't implode. Because that's the fear, right? Like, as Black bodies, sometimes there's this feeling of like, if I take up more power, if I take up fully standing in who I am, the world will cave in, or I'll lose the opportunity, and that's real. Like, the threat is real. But we have to each and every day challenge that in ourselves and for the people around us. So for me, when it comes to my hair, it's about remembering in the places that remind me that I'm beautiful, that I am beautiful, and then taking that truth with me when I go.
That's awesome. I'm gonna be like you when I grow up.
I know.
I'm gonna come to Render Free just so I can be like, yes. Taking it all in.
So in a past life, I used to even be, this is boring for me right now. There was a time where, black hair shops take a mad minute to get your hair done, and you need to just plan the whole day. And I was getting my hair done for a friend's wedding, and I used to work at the University of Minnesota Law School, so context. And by the way, you guys are awesome, just like joining us, and it's like, I don't see that many people of the Black color in there, but you guys are enjoying this conversation. That is so context specific, so even more. So my hair has always been, I like to say that I went natural before we went to war with Iraq. And context again, being Nigerian, we grew up with our hair always being straight and a perm and all of that. That was what beauty is, or was to a certain extent. I remember going back, I have homes in different places, but like home is a state of mind. Going back home to Lagos, and the hairstylist was like, oh my God, this is virgin hair. And I'm like, this is how it grows out of my head. So this is how it grows out of your head, And because sometimes even that, it's complex and problematic within people of the Black color in different communities, So bring it back to University of Minnesota Law School. My hair, I always love it being red, because my mom, great example, she would have, I've forgotten the flare, like her hair would be dark, great, just was awesome, is awesome. And I wanted my hair to be red for a wedding. So you go, and then they couldn't lift it because my hair is really super soft, and it was a big fro. And not that many people were wearing fros back then. This was like 2003, 4. So I was like, people would stop and be like, I love your hair. I'm like, you would cover your hair because you're like, you don't want to be a billboard. I go there, they couldn't get the color right. So it was straight up blonde, white. Yeah, I loved it. Michelle's like, what? It gets better. The red didn't come, so it was like bright orange. I'll share the picture with you guys later. It was bright orange, and I was like, oh my gosh, I have to go to work on Monday. And at this point, if you guys know hair, men maybe no. If you know hair, if you've dyed it, you have to wait a week.
Yeah, you can't do that to me.
So my hair is a big fro, orange, and I work at the law school.
No, ma'am.
At the Institute of Conduct
Somebody will be
Policy.
talking to you. HR will be talking to you.
But I have been fortunate where, for whatever reason, I've lived in a world, and I think right now maybe it's payback. I've lived in a world where I was allowed to be limitless. I've had a friend be like, you're like my Kramer, because I come into your house and you open the fridge, and I'm like, do I have to ask? So I feel like people are always like, you need to filter. And I'm like, I'm filtering. And then you see them going like, oh,
This
is my filtering. But this is to say, I went to work, and people were like, whoa, okay. The law professors are like, whoa, okay. And they got used to it. And that's something that, I think I also realize now that not everyone always gets that, right? Yeah. Not everyone gets to be Paige walking around with a big fro, and people are like, well, And also, I've been there for a while, so nobody's gonna make me leave or anything like that, just because my hair is orange at this point. So yeah, sometimes it happens where you're a unicorn. I'm in the phase where I'm realizing that the unicorn is being hit hard, so I'm pacing myself. But yeah, there are moments where they haven't giving me too much of a hard time because I'm like, what? I look awesome, right? You want to be me?
All right. Shar, you going?
This was the fun. I'm so glad you asked that question. I know we all have different, experiences and perspectives. Many of us have come from corporate or jobs or whatever. I think this one is kind of like 2 to 3-fold. So first, I think it's realizing what we are subscribing to of beliefs. For those who may not know, hair is a intricate and sensitive topic for especially Black women. Yep. Please don't ask to touch our hair.
Please don't.
Just want to know that. You can admire it from afar.
Please don't.
Get close. Just want to say that.
Okay, just can you say one more time in the mic? Please don't.
Please don't touch our hair. Thank you. Please don't ask to touch our hair.
Please don't ask, and please don't do it when I'm walking away.
Don't do that. Don't do it then either.
Don't do it. Okay. Sorry.
All right. No apologies for that. That was necessary. So, So the standard, let's say the old, we're gonna call it old because it's changing, but old standard of beauty was, light skin, long hair and straight hair. And so we're, as a culture and as an ethnic group, we're trying to overcome that part. Because that was the standard of beauty in society. I won't say for all homes, but that was the standard of beauty for a long time. And it's perpetuated in what you see. So it's in the magazines, it's in, television, what you watch, movies, everything, So for us, we have to, I don't want to say have to, it's unlearning that idea of what beauty is and redefining it for yourself. So you can do that. That's the society approach. Then there's our own cultural approach in our homes, of like, because that's the standard of beauty, it's so entrenched in our culture that sometimes you may experience a little bit of backlash for being different, for choosing something different. So whether that's in your workplace, whether that's in your friend group, and other things like that. So, when I decided to go natural, it really was out of, I love that you said you were bored with the hair, because hair has been an expression for me. It's like the thing that I can play with and experiment with and try different styles and weaves. And the only thing I haven't tried was a wig yet, but I know that's on my list. We need to try that. I need to, right. But color, I've done blonde, I've done a lot of different things. But it was an experience in college, actually. I was on a dance team and we were doing, this is so Detroit, but we were dancing for a hair show and the person did our hair and he bleached mine and the front. And it was really cute, but I had, at the time, I think I was growing out a relaxer, and so it broke off a little bit. But because I don't have my worthiness is not tied in my hair, so it was just oh, okay, I can't do both at the same time. So I just stopped doing relaxers and then just completely went natural. So I chose color over, relaxers and straightening pretty much. And so that part was easy. I think the rest is going through the societal norms of, it's okay to wear it, even in your family, even my grandmother doesn't love natural hair, but I know how to create boundaries of don't comment then, it's my hair. I can do things I want to do with it. So I really encourage.
You said that to your grandma, don't comment.
I did.
Can you say it to my mama? Because my grandmother is passed, but my mother just made a comment. She was like, your husband like your hair like that. And I was like,
yes, he does.
He do.
That's why you got
to do.
Yes,
but that's okay. He does not get to comment. I tell him I am going through this journey. You do not get to comment unless I ask you to.
See? And do the same thing. It's your journey. It's your hair. They don't have to wear it.
My grandmother's been passed for
They'll be like,
But me and my grandma have a great relationship of we respect each other's boundaries.
You was like, and I told my grandma, my heart beating fast. My grandma been fast 15 years. That girl, my heart is beating fast. Telling my grandmama that. Okay.
Yes, we have a great relationship. We like to do different things, and we're very honest. We're very honest with each other. That's a great
relationship.
And so it was just hey, if you don't like it, don't comment. Just like I won't comment, or I'll keep it cordial if you ask me if I like something of yours. That's a relationship.
I'm gonna bring you home with me. let's move a little bit. Since we're in an honest, safe space, this is safe, people. This is all safe. What does it feel like sitting up here talking to people that don't look like you about things that matter to you at your core? What does that feel like? What does that look like?
I'll speak to it feels good to be able to do that. But you also have to be very confident and aware in yourself. I'll go back to core values. One of my core values is inclusivity, and I feel like people don't know what you're experiencing unless you share with them. They could try. I'm not asking you to sit in my seat or in my shoes, but I'm going to tell you what my experiences are. And they are valid experiences. And so it's really important to me and who I am to share like my experiences and where I am in life, and for others to know what that looks like, so that they can feel comfortable in talking to others and noting like, okay, maybe I shouldn't touch anyone's hair, or maybe I shouldn't ask like, how long did that take?
Is that your hair?
Is that your hair? No, last week my hair was here. My hair is here. Like, I will note, because I've lived many lives. I used to work for a Black-owned hair store in the Twin Cities. I was a store manager, and you wouldn't believe, even though we have the like stereotypes, but you wouldn't believe the amount of different ethnicities and people that would come in to a hair store to get a wig, to get extensions, and just to learn new styles for themselves, or whether it's family members. So this norm that we create that only Black women wear extensions or change their hair colors is not at all.
Doing it at first.
Everyone does it, but we're the ones getting asked these questions. So but this is this. Yeah.
Because all the actresses on TV,
Girl, the regular people walking around got extensions. You ain't got to look on TV. Them regular people.
Exactly.
So. Yeah. How does it feel? Go ahead. That's what Rocky, but that ain't you. Rocky's the brand. See, I couldn't even distinguish between you and the brand just right now.
How does it feel? I think our conversation for me, it was so much about this here that I wasn't as focused on the audience. But I will say that following the murder of George Floyd here in Minneapolis, and watching all the conversations that came following his murder, on not just in Minnesota but nationally and internationally, is that conversation is really important. So as you mentioned, Michelle, in the bio, I spent over 15 years, and I say 15, but it's more than that, but I'm trying to age down. So the last 15 years in corporate roles here in Minnesota, and what I found and what I've been able to reflect on, December 2019, I was laid off from Pfizer Consumer Health. After 7 years, they sold the business to another organization. And so I've been on the sidelines during all the changes that have happened. And during that time, I've been able to reflect on a lot of the concessions that I made when I was in corporate. That I would choose my battles when people would say the most foul things. And my last role, I was in an office of only 11 people. And during that time, I had to pull 4 people into my office to have a conversation about something that they said that was racist or inappropriate. And that's really not my personality. I had to learn to be that way. And so between making concessions, watching all that's happened, I would say I've made a decision to be authentic in who I am. Again, leading on the brand that I created, because it is about empowering. It is about being unapologetic that I'm celebrating Black girls. My character has deep brown skin and textured hair, and that was on purpose. And her hair shows texture and reaches high to the heavens. That was on purpose. And her hair changes, which someone in branding told me that I can't do because you're not supposed to change your branding, but she does, because that is a wink to us and how we change our hair. So for me, it's been realizing that there's concessions sometimes, but also leading in authenticity, and that's the only way that we can get to that place that we hope to be, which is that we can create a better world and shape the future for those who are coming next.
Anybody else? I have another question.
Hey girl. I don't know why I'd be surprised. Like I'm not here when I'm here. You are here at the table with a good chair. Yeah. So this is actually why I created a second endeavor. I actually just seen something a few days ago that said every creative's toxic trait is turning every hobby into a business. So I actually created a space called Art in Many Forms. It's not a physical space, it's another business. Art in Many Forms is a discussion and networking panel for women of color to come and talk about them being in entrepreneurship without having all their ducks in a row. And the intention behind that was for creatives and creators here in Minneapolis, Minnesota, to be able to have conversations with everybody else in the room, because I think for me, and shout out to Melanie Wallaby, because we had a really dope conversation one day, and we were talking about us working in agency, and we were just divulging everything. And so from that conversation, what I truly realized was, at that, I don't know still what's happening, but at that time, that was 2017, there was a lot of agencies saying there was no Black creatives in the pipeline to hire, and that they didn't know their perspectives, and they didn't know da-da-da-da-da. And I remember one of my last days working, the name of the place is that I had an art director come up and ask me, because he had went to diversity training.
Stop.
So serious. No, he really did. I'm not trying to be petty. Don't start. But he had went to diversity training, and so I guess one of the questions that folks were supposed to ask when they went back to work to their other colleagues was, what is summer like for you?
What is what?
What is summer like
Summer.
for you?
The season, got it.
And
okay.
so he answered the question first, and he was like, going up to the cabin, going fishing, seeing the kids, maybe taking a boat out on a lake, whatever. Don't care. I was like, so he had asked me what was mine like, and I said my most honest answer, because I grew up on 36 in Columbus, that is now I would consider gentrified, but back then it was gang territory, it was blood territory, that's what it was. So if my friends made it through the summer, it was a good summer.
It's a great summer.
It's an amazing summer.
Yep.
That's my perspective. Mm-hmm. And so when I said it, I remember his face of just being like, huh. And so with that, I created Art in Many Forms, because one, Black women don't need to have all their ducks in a row. I see way too many people start businesses who don't know shit. Just being honest.
That's true. We'll take your honesty.
It's right, okay? There is a saying, I want the same confidence as a mediocre white man. And I'm just saying, I think that, I don't know what Black woman put that on a bag, but I think it really started something. But then also just that notion of just that notion of being able to really say your perspective out loud, because especially places like Minnesota, people don't even still think Black people live here.
That's true.
How many times your people be like, you live in Minnesota? Yeah, that's a thing. Yeah. And so this is a space that I like being in, because it gives conversation, a real one, if people are willing and actually want to learn and actually want to be progressive and not just use it in their diversity trainings.
Okay. I appreciate that. Okay, so last question, and then we're gonna have the audience ask questions if they want to. Dang, Seth brought the camera over. So I was once in a room at a job that I loved, in a room around a table with a lot of white men discussing marketing, and there was another person in the room that looked like me, and I wanted to make sure that that person's voice was heard because that person had something to say. And when I did that and empowered that young lady to have voice at the table, she came back to me and said that she had never had anybody do that for her. I want to know about a time when you saw somebody and gave them voice at a table that probably didn't want to hear what they had to say or didn't value what they had to say or the worth that they had at that table, but you saw in them and you were like, you know what, I'm going to raise you up at this table. And that'll be our last question. Anybody?
I'll jump in. Not to be like whatever, but I do it often because there aren't that many people. I mean, I still get people like, oh, you're a mediator or you have a PhD or you, so it's often when I hear people limiting themselves, I'm like, and I actually have to learn to be like, okay, what do you want? I don't want to overwhelm you. So one of our fellows, we also have a collaborative that we started separate from the Respect Doula Consulting, who's a student right now and wants to go to law school or feels like they want to go to law school. You know how when people like drop stuff and then they start limiting themselves? I'm like, I got you. You know, one of my mentors is at Harvard Law School and he's a director. Is always I don't have money, but I know people and we'll make it happen. And I know how to stalkerize with a smile. So, like I think I get a lot of joy from that, and I get a lot of joy from making sure that whatever toxicity is happening when people are oppressed is removed. So with that particular person, you know, they're working at this job where they're underappreciated. I'm always like, no question is too bad for you to ask, you know, and I'll take the hit for you to make that happen. So that was one individual sort of like, we were working together and I could see the person living themselves. I'm like, well, you're going to Cornell. But then there were real realities, right? The person's like, I'm the only person that is sort of like caregiving for my family. They're in their early 20s. They're like, how am I going to pay, even if I get a scholarship, how am I going to make sure that everybody else is taken care of? I'm like, don't worry, we have a village. Let's just connect you to that. Go into another space where it's legal stuff, you know, alternative dispute resolution. And it's mostly people that, no one looks like me in there, but there's someone who probably might, presenters of the brown color might be mixed race. And I could tell that they were trying to talk about something that everybody wasn't hearing. And that's another situation where in trying to facilitate that person have a voice, somebody lambasted me and I'm like, okay. You know, but it was really good because later on, I know that because I did that and took that hit, when I see that person, you know, like, you can, they won't explicitly because we're all in this government institutions, working for the state, working for a university. They're not gonna say it because they're not there yet. And truthfully, sometimes people don't want to say it yet because they don't know if you could be trusted or they might put you in trouble, you know, plausible deniability. But I know that if I ever need to schedule something, they got me.
Yep.
You know, and because I think because of those unwritten things that we've worked on together.
Okay. Anybody else?
Yes, I wanted to offer a quick insight to that. Honestly, I feel like this was a constant thing for Activate Network, where we're supporting Black women, women of color in their business and in the workplace as well, and continually bringing in women of color speakers and entrepreneurs and, you know, professionals to help women, you know, advocate for what they want. You know, whether that's more pay, you know, equitable pay, promotion, more vacation time, whatever it may be. I think a direct example that I had recently was more of uplifting the voice of people who weren't in the room, but the people who were in the room served the people who weren't in the room, which are women of color. We have a brand called Certified Access, which helps to create more equitable practices in supplier diversity and procurement. And I was in a room, and it was a well-known company and a representative of that company, and we were discussing some of the processes around becoming certified and getting contracts with corporate, or government. And they talked about there's for one of the certifications, there's a fee, and it could be it's 300 minimum, 300 and up. And they were talking about like, oh, that's very little, it's nominal. And I said, excuse me, wait a minute. I said, I understand, I hear you. And I want to offer the perspective that this feels a little far removed of what you said, because you are dealing with women of color and Black women who, one, were the least, to get capital, right? Resources, like you've mentioned multiple times. We're wearing many different hats. Many times we're starting the business while also having a job. And, and sometimes the breadwinner of the household, right? And so $300 could be a big deal. It could be a big deal because it's not just about the $300, it's the time, it's the effort. She may not see that return on investment for a year, 2 years, 3 years. It really just depends. And so offering that perspective of like, hey, we need some more, not even sensitivity, but warm perspective around this, because if you're approaching just the fee with that means everything that comes after the fee, you're coming with that lens of lack of support, lack of understanding. And so that was a moment to just, if we can have more, shifting moments like that, we could really change a lot of things, because that goes towards opening the door to access. That not realizing that could be a major barrier, for someone who, is depending, should I feed my family for the next month? Or do I apply for this certification that I'm not even sure is going to benefit me at the moment, because I know no other women of color who have certification who have gotten contracts.
Yep. Thank you for sharing. Ariel?
Okay.
And then Audra will go after you.
Okay, wonderful. So one of the things that I think we've kind of touched on throughout the day, and is true to my experience as a Black woman, is that I am both navigating society and all that comes with the body that I live in, and then also like navigating my inner world and how I understand myself to be as a Black woman. And so you mentioned this story where you're in a room with other people and there was someone with you who you saw but wasn't being seen by the others. I think of the times that I'm actually one-on-one with that person. One of the offerings of our membership at Render Free is member care, which is a one-on-one time. As Black women who are often wearing so many hats and taking care of so many people, we rarely have spaces where we get to just show up as ourselves and just say how we're doing. Like no other agenda. And even with some of our dear friends, hopefully those are reciprocal relationships where you are, yes, being cared for, but also caring for them. And so in member care, I get to offer a space where it's like, no, I actually don't even want you to check in with me. We're just here to take care of you, where you can practice not only being seen by other people, but seeing yourself. And that is such meaningful work. I think when someone here mentioned your values a couple times, and mentioned like our personal missions and how they're separate from our brands, they're separate from our businesses. That is like the work of my life that I always want to do, to make sure that we, particularly as Black and brown women, see ourselves.
Thank you.
Yeah, I just want to add that for me, not necessarily encouraging someone in the room. I feel like during my career, I've been in the room with really smart people. Sometimes it's like you really talk too much, actually. So I haven't been in spaces where that's been a problem. But I want to say that when I have been at the table and I've had budgets, what's been important to me is opening the door for others. And I see it a lot where people take up spaces and they're not opening the door for others. So I work for a corporation, and they did book fairs. I knew a sister, her name's Melody Strong. Let's bring her in. She's an illustrator. She was added to the tour. I would work somewhere where they wanted to film a commercial at a coffee shop. Golden Time. I put them on the table. They filmed it at that coffee shop. There's many examples of that because that's how I am. So I think it is our job. Yeah, give people voices and space. But if you're at the table and you have budgets, you have decision-making power, think about ways that you can open the door for other people.
Okay, I have a couple of questions from the audience that they wrote in. See how efficient and sufficient our audience is? And then we'll open it up for more questions if people didn't write theirs, and then we will conclude. So first off, where is Render Free? Where is that space located?
Yeah, such a great question. We are in South Minneapolis. We're on 35th and Aldrich. And Precious mentioned soft launch. We are fully launched, but we are still 2 days a week because we're a baby business. Render Free is about to reach its 2nd year, which means that every member that joins us is a founding member. Yes, thank you. Every ally that supports us, they're helping to build the foundation and launching us into the future of Render Free. So, thank you.
Okay. I think this is the same for Render. Oh, okay. What services do you offer?
Yes.
Look at
So yeah. So we are a workspace and a wellness club for self-identified Black and brown women. Our mission is about disrupting racial trauma. So Thursdays and Fridays, currently from 9 to 5, they shift a little bit in the summertime because y'all know Minnesota. We like to go home early in the summer. We're not playing. We're like the sun's out, we out.
We out.
So right now it's 9 to 5, Thursdays and Fridays, so access to a physical space. And then we also are a hybrid membership. So we have virtual events and hybrid offerings as well. So for example, tomorrow we have a solidarity session where it's just for founding members, which means you're gonna get on a Zoom call. I know a Zoom call is not the best, but it does mean that you can pop in your headphones and be like, cooking dinner or, putting your kids down, and at the same time be connecting community. And we're going to be talking about conversations that continually come up in member care, which is one-on-one touch points with members as well.
Okay. And then we'll go back to Audra. Can you tell us where we can find Rocky Robinson products?
Great question. So you can find us online. You can shop 24/7 at www.itsmerocky.com. We are now at Regents Hospital in their gift shop. We are working to add Methodist soon. And we are partnering with Girl Scouts, and we will be available in their gift shops. And finally, starting March 15th, you can shop at the Dayton's Project, which is downtown Minneapolis, 700 Nicollet Mall.
Wait. Tell us the products that you have. Is it
products? So self-care, we launched with personal care products. So shower gel, bubble bath, lotion, lip balm, hand sanitizer. And this week, soon, we are going to launch aromatherapy sprays. They're essential oil powered, and they help with 3 key benefits: focus, happy, and calm.
Aww. Okay. Y'all better clap it up. Yeah. Okay. Do we have any questions in the audience that is burning through right now? Don't be shy. Because if you don't ask questions, I'm going to start singing, and he does not like that. Oh, we have a question in the back. There's Sarah. Hey, Sarah, that's my friend.
I actually work with Junior Achievement, so we work with a lot of young entrepreneurs. I would love to hear if you have any advice that you would give to young women who are thinking about taking an entrepreneurial path.
Okay, wait, before you answer, I have to repeat it. Okay. Junior Achievement works with young girls for entrepreneurship, and was wondering if you had any advice that you would give young entrepreneurs.
When you say young, how young? Are we talking about high school or in college? Okay, so we can start early. Therapy. Y'all laughing. Therapy, because you gonna need it. Because entrepreneurship, it's not Oh my gosh, it's not even, because I hear that all the time too, right? That entrepreneurship isn't for the faint of heart. But entrepreneurship is not a hobby. It is not your job. It is your livelihood and your lifestyle. And you have to get to a point where you can separate the two. But that takes a while. So start there. But if you can't start there, this one is really hard, but it's very, very important. The word no will save you so much time and energy. People pleasing is not for entrepreneurs because you are not going to survive when you tell everybody yes. And doing things you don't want to do, not going to save you. Those two things, I think every time I talk to even my friends, they are just like, well, I said yes to it, but I really didn't want to.
No, ma'am. No, ma'am.
And granted, everybody has their reasons. Everybody has their reasons. Like when you're first starting out and you have to hustle and you have to get your name out there and you have to be able, like my friends, when we all started, I remember our thing was we want to be able to walk in rooms and not have to say our names, not have to introduce ourselves, because that used to be the mantra, right? Don't care now, whatever. The word no, though, is so being able to be clear, concise, and specific. And even when you have clients who aren't, because especially as a creative, I have people who are like, and I'm laughing because I'm thinking about somebody who Shy sent me, who are like, hey, I want this, da 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 da. I don't do that. The answer is no. But I can recommend someone who can do that for you instead of just taking things on that you don't do. Being a person of all the hats, especially as an entrepreneur, you're already doing that. So you don't need to be lying on your resume. You are your resume.
Well, all right then.
I'm just saying, and therapy. Please go to therapy.
You should go to therapy regardless. If you are an entrepreneur or not, you should go to therapy. Go ahead, Faith.
I would say that entrepreneurship is just like a time of exploration. So be sure to do all of the things that you want to do, and understanding that failure is a part of the process. You're knowing you're doing the work if you, at one point you do fail. Like that's kind of like your guardrails, so to say. And then also know your friends and family are not your they're not your customers,
Right.
So they're your supporters. If they want to support you, at one point, so be it. But they're not your customers. Find who your customers are, and cater to them. And then, it is always best that they are not, because you don't have to worry about giving them a discount of some sort. Everybody wants a family and friend discount. But I think that would have helped me a lot of frustration, knowing that like your friends and family are not going to always be your customers or your clients, and being okay with that.
Yep. All right, Audra. We'll have Audra go.
Okay. And I just want to thank Junior Achievement. I actually was able to have a couple sessions with young entrepreneurs and got so much from that.
Okay.
I would say my number one advice is to just go for it. And then 2, do your research. And 3, know who your customers are. And 4, understand what your why is. Just going for it. Your kids probably know it better than anyone, is that the barrier is really low to entry into entrepreneurship. Literally with your phone, you can go on Shopify and create a shop. And so even if that's starting with one thing to sell, do it and have fun.
Okay.
I love that. Sarah, if we're talking to Junior Achievement girls, I think they're already stocked full. I would say make sure you get a LinkedIn profile and a mentor. That's everything else, therapy and LinkedIn profile and a mentor, because Faye said something that was interesting. I was like, exploration. That's one thing I don't really like about entrepreneurship. I'm like, no, we need to go. It needs to be done. You can tell that I was raised with just set expectations. My parents were like, no excuses. get it done. So, but if someone has decided that they want to be an entrepreneur, which I think like a lot of junior North candidates are already thinking that way. I never even thought about that word. It was business or this or that. So I'm figuring that out. LinkedIn profile, it's not easy, but if you also have a mentor and you guys are already stalking them, if it's people that are out of this and Junior Achievement is trying to connect to them, I would just say like just getting those people connected to other people to bring them back in. And everyone on here, I'm volunteering them, would be mentors. And all the people that have already...
She's voluntold everybody on the
You
panel.
know, I mean, look at the passion that has already... Everyone on here would be mentors, but that part is key. Because Minnesota has so many resources. Like I'm part of the SCORE, small business, and all of that. I don't like to fail. So I surround myself with a lot of people who know and buffer me into that. But that really is key, just letting people go before you.
Go ahead, Shar.
I just wanted to round that out to say a couple things. One, treat it like a science experiment. You know, like, because I think that takes away the fear of failure. If you treat it like an experiment, you're trying something, you're gathering data, and sometimes the experiment fails, and you're like, oops, okay. So, you know, if you get into, you know, the deep science of it, like the control variables, the fixed variables, the fixed variables, the uncontrolled variables. So if you treat it that way, you'll gather the data, and you can start to separate the business from you, because you are not the business. Even though I know they say that and JC says that, but anywho, to a
Don't
degree.
discount Jay. No, don't do it.
Right, not discounting that, and saying like you, your worth is not and your value is not tied into your business. So I want you to fail a lot, because you learn from that. It's okay, because then you'll get up faster and you'll try the next thing and you'll try the next thing, because you can get there. And so I just encourage you, you know, for those watching who have an idea, try it. You know, get that mentor, try that next step, ask for help, you know, and be relentless about it until you get the help, you know, that you seek, so that you can try something that you want to try and have fun. You know, don't forget to have some fun. You know, I think at that age, you don't have as much responsibility just yet, so you can approach it in a totally different, you know, carefree way. That if you start later, you may not have that privilege.
And therapy.
Yep.
Thank you. Any more questions out there? Burning desires? Okay, well, thank you. I'd like to say thank you to all of you ladies for sitting on this panel. Thank you on behalf of the Minneapolis Foundation. Thank you on behalf of Junior Achievement North. We salute you. You are amazing. Your crowns are beautiful. Straighten them and straighten another. Thank you. We tried.